So much in common.
Now let's go back to our top story. Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the atrocity at a concert in Manchester in the UK. 22 people were killed in the suicide bombing, among them children, and 59 were injured. Well, to discuss this, we can now cross live to Henna Rai from the Women Against Radicalisation Network and David Russell from the English Democrats Party. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening. David, if I could start with you on this particular issue. People on social media, they've expressed anger over the apparent lack of security at the event. Do you think the authorities are doing enough to ensure people's safety?
I think we're probably missing the point, to be honest. Do we have to employ more security over the threats that we face in this country? You know, we seem to be making allowances for the fact that these guys and girls, some of them, they actually want to, run amok in our country and cause all sorts of terrorist atrocities.
Well, Henry, if we can come to you on that particular point, I mean, we've seen, this is not the first, we've seen a string of attacks by Muslims. What do you think are the reasons behind their radicalisation?
There are many reasons that...
Hannah, could you get Hannah to answer that one first, David? Thank you.
Sorry.
Yep.
So, thank you. There are many reasons behind what causes radicalisation. A lot of the time we see it because of a wide complexity of issues that they may have: vulnerabilities, isolation, online grooming, which is what takes place by Daesh, members of Daesh who target these individuals who've been surfing the net and then continue to feed them this evil ideology according to them, to make them believe that what they are doing is for the cause of Islam, whereas it is not. It is as far removed from Islam as anything else.
OK, but what we've also seen as well, looking at this particular issue and this general sense of fear, we've seen several high-profile, looking at some of the news here, rape cases by migrants over the past few months as well, in tandem with some of the terrorist attacks. Do you think that this has therefore created a sense where people are wary of Muslims, and do they have a reason to be?
Let's be clear here. It is not about Muslims, and anybody can carry out a rape attack. We have cases of white paedophiles. We have cases of Asian paedophiles. So let's not stigmatise a single community just for a crime.
Well, David, I mean, do you think the European authorities are therefore doing enough to help Muslim migrants adjust into society?
Well, you see, this begins to be the problem. You know, our own government in the UK tend to put these people in secular ghettos. They tend to believe that because these people are of a certain descent that they need to be with their own people. That doesn't help integration or assimilation in any way whatsoever. And I think our governments have been complicit in causing these ghettos, shall we say. And just going back to the point that young lady said there, you know, we can't stigmatise and blame all people. I do believe white paedophiles actually act on their own, where we're finding that the 98% or 95% to 98% of all Muslim grooming gangs, let's get rid of the word Asian for the moment. I do believe it's a slur on the rest of the Asian. Well, I'm sorry, but figures suggest otherwise in the UK.
That is absolutely incorrect. We have cases, clear cases, where white paedophile gangs have been working in conjunction with each other, planning attacks and targeting vulnerable young people and couple, raping babies and toddlers. But right now we are not talking about this. Right now the issue is terrorism and the terror attacks that have taken place in Manchester. So I think our focus should be on that and how we are going to tackle this monster in our midst.
Well said.
Well, and on that particular note as well, I mean, let's look at the target for this latest attack. You've got Ariana Grande. She's performing at the Manchester Arena. She has quite, you know, she's a pop star. She has provocative songs. There's lots of underage girls there that seem to love this kind of thing. Do you think the concert was attacked, Henna, if I come to you first, was attacked because Muslims or extreme Muslims find such things offensive?
I don't think it was a matter of that. I think this was targeting people for the sake of targeting those that would be most vulnerable, where there was going to be a mass crowd of people. And let's be clear here, we do not know what the motive behind this attack was, albeit that it has all the hallmarks of a jihadist suicide bomber and somebody who was working with the inspiration of Daesh to cause him to carry out such an attack. However, the Ariana Grande concert. Ariana Grande was a Nickelodeon star who has become a pop teen sensation, who attracts various crowds, and not necessarily provocative. I don't agree with that. I haven't seen many of her songs, but what I have seen, they have been somewhat age appropriate. Maybe it was just what I had seen. However, those present at this concert yesterday were people of all kinds of ethnicity, diverse groups, mainly parents, families with their children, young teens, pre-teens, and the youngest victim that we saw who succumbed to the attack was that of an 8-year-old girl, Saifi Rusas. And this shows it was absolutely indiscriminate. The attacker did not care who he targeted.
I think you're completely missing the point, to be honest. I think you're completely missing the point, and we can keep glossing over this as much as you like.
How am I missing the point?
In the UK. You're missing the point, okay? You're missing the point because she is quite controversial in what she sings about. She's quite controversial in what's in her videos. Homosexuality, it was something that Islam doesn't abide by, okay? Now, we can argue the toss as to why they attacked, or he attacked, or a group behind him, and the so-called lone wolf that these people are often called. And the same rhetoric that it's nothing to do with Islam. It has absolutely everything to do with Islam. We can't get any further away from it. The trilogy of books, the Hadith, the Quran, the Surah...
Because I am a Muslim here who's fighting radicalisation at grassroots.
Please, well, I'm sorry, but again, you know, you're glossing over the fact that this is absolutely everything to do with Islam. You know, you can't take these books that are somewhat of an instruction manual and then say, after these people have read these books, you know, we've only got to look to the Middle East and what's going on in Europe at the moment to find out exactly the laws and the lives that these people live. We're inviting those people in amongst us, and this is what's going wrong. Our government haven't helped the fact that they've put these people all together. Some people have actually left the Middle East to get away from Islam because they know it's barbaric and backward and don't want any part of it, I'm afraid to say. And they get put into these countries where, in actual fact, they get put back into the same situations.
And let's face it,
no, it's not. I'm sorry. No, it's a It's a realist outlook. Okay?
David, can I just interrupt you there?
Then can't
no,
leave.
it's not. It's
hang on, David. Let me just interrupt you there. A mosque in Manchester was attacked following the atrocity. Don't you think that Muslims end up suffering the most from these terror attacks? Well, do we not say that also the Muslims
have been the greatest victims of terror attacks that have taken place at the hands of Daesh? Let's not forget this. The vast amount of victims that have transpired from these terror attacks have been Muslims themselves. You just need to look at what's happening in Syria and Iraq,
of Islam are
who
Muslims.
have been targeted by this.
You're absolutely correct.
Secondly, what I would say here, Kate, is that our respected guest is saying that it is down to the scriptures and the books that they read. This is not how radicalisation takes place. Radicalisation is a process that takes place through conversations, online grooming, online radicalisation.
So you're saying it has nothing to do with the trilogy of books? Is
that Daesh use at the moment, and it is an ideology
what you're saying. It's got nothing to do with the Quran, the Hadith, and the Surah. Is that correct?
The Quran clearly states, Kate. The Quran clearly states, Kate, that the loss of one innocent life is the loss of the whole of humanity, and it is clear in its orders to uphold the laws of the country that we live in. As citizens of whichever country we may be abiding in, as Muslims, it is our duty to uphold those laws of that country and to ensure we live with peace and equality and equity with our fellow human beings. There is no discrimination there.
And that's why we have Sharia courts. And that's why we have Sharia courts, because they live by the law of the land in this country. And the Sharia courts are operating in this country right now.
The same in the same manner that we have Beth Dean courts by the for the Jewish community, sometimes you need arbitrary councils that do help with the Islamic interpretation of ways of life that may require some kind of support. You cannot turn around and say this is the only cause of terrorism. It is an ideology that
I didn't say. No, I didn't say it was the only cause. What I did say,
in accordance to the Quran and in accordance to what Muslims who are reconciled in Britain and who do live as upstanding citizens of this country and who do abide by the law.
Yep,
the majority of Muslims are peace-loving.
Well, on that point then, I mean, David, what do you think should be done to reduce the security threat in Europe and the UK?
Right, OK, I think it's quite easy. We have terrorists, upwards of 3,000 on a watch list at the moment. I don't believe that the security services are doing enough. I think they're run ragged, for want of a better terminology, across this country, trying to keep up with the amount of Islamist attacks that they're foiling. And they are foiling these attacks. You know, some are slipping through. Does that make us safe? You know, a first port of call for governments is to make sure their people are safe, and they're certainly not doing that job. Now, I would suggest, and yes, you know, some people aren't going to like this, some people will probably agree with this, but this is the absolute truth and the stark truth of the matter. We need to call it what it is. We need to see it for what it is. And certainly these guys on a watch list, if they intend us harm, before that harm's carried out, they need removing from this country. They are terrorists, OK? We're not talking about them being Muslims. We're not talking about Islamic. We're not talking about anything. What we're talking about is the actual fact that these guys are terrorists. They are in our country and they do mean us harm.
This is something,
now, if we
David,
deport these
I
people,
agree
see,
with
the problem
you on.
sorry, excuse me, 2 minutes. So just give me 2 seconds just to finish the point, if you wouldn't mind. See, what happens is we seem to be scared of the Islamic community as a whole. And if we did decide to round up, 3,000 people on a watch list and actually send those people abroad to a country that supports that kind of ideology, what do you think would happen with the rest of the communities? And what would they do exactly, do you think? I think there would be hell to pay for that. And we're talking about terrorists here, you know, a suspected terrorist, people on a watch list. We're talking about very, very bad people that are in our country at the moment, and we don't seem to have, although the security services are all over this, apparently, these people still keep getting through the net, and they're actually committing these atrocities in our country. None of us at the moment are safe.
Well, Henry, on that point, I mean, going forward then, do you think that the terror threat issue will influence the upcoming UK general elections?
I don't think it should influence the general election. I don't think it's got anything to do with politics. We have seen, due to the heinous attacks of yesterday, we have seen people coming together, humanity coming together, standing together, united and unified against this. People who were supporting the victims in the aftermath of the bombing last night, a large proportion of them were Muslims. There were Muslim taxi drivers offering free lift homes. There were restaurants opening up their doors, people opening up their homes.
Unifying people isn't going to solve the problem. Standing together having a candlelight vigil
at the same time, what you were saying, David, what you were saying about rounding up 3,000 people who are on the watch list and moving them to another country is not going to resolve the issue of radicalisation and terrorism. The threat will continue until we've tackled this head on.
It'd be a great start.
This is the work that I'm doing with my organisation, WARN. This is the work that I'm doing with WARN. This is what I'm doing with Women Against Radicalisation Network. We are working at grassroots level, working with people in the community to create further dialogue and greater understandings of the terror threat, understand how radicalisation can affect them in their homes and how to tackle it and what we can do to prevent it from going any further. We need greater support as an organisation
we can actually talk about our foreign policy.
You
know.
Well, David, if you could stay away from foreign policy, just very briefly.
And what the government implement.
What do you think? Do you think that the whole thing, the whole terror threat, the whole influence, terror threat, everything will influence the general election? Do you think so, David, or not?
No, not at all, really. I think we've had it for too long. I think too many people are aware of the actual problem, and it doesn't matter how much the government say, you know, that the terrorists are trying to divide us. The terrorists aren't trying to divide us. The terrorists are trying to kill us. OK, this has been going on for a long, long time, and through social media, you know, and dialogue, we're actually getting somewhere now, and people are waking up to the threat that we face. And I think it's about time the government did and actually took this head on, rather than trying to say actually it was a despicable attack. You know, our thoughts and feelings go out to every person, every family affected by this. But, you know, my thoughts and feelings and having candlelit vigils, you know, and let's all change our profile picture, isn't going to make this go away. A Cobra meeting with Theresa May and a little cabinet there isn't going to make this go away. This is not going to happen overnight. There are many, many ways that these guys are radicalised. We know that. But I'm solely on the impression and under the impression, without the scriptures from the books, that would not be happening. No matter how these guys actually try to do it, you know, it's in black and white. You've only got to research what goes on, and you will find out exactly what they mean when they say that Muhammad was the perfect man.
Which is why it's important, David, which is why it's important for organisations such as WARN to be on the ground and continue doing the work that they are doing to counter this exact radicalisation and this terror attack and such terrorist threats that are in our midst. And it's important that we work closely with the government here in the UK, and we have been doing so. We've had those dialogues with the government. We will continue those dialogues with the government. We will continue with our advocacy work at grassroots level and further afield to ensure that
That's
we
fantastic.
will
counter this
Okay, Henry and David, I'm afraid we can debate this all night, but I'm afraid we're going to have to wrap it up here. Henry and from the Women Against Radicalisation Network and David Russell from the English Democrats Party, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on RT International, a look